Today, it's Onyx like Donkey Kong phonics. This is CheckPoint. Welcome to CheckPoint. Join us at the back of the classroom.
There's a seat near the window and the breeze is blowing.
Hang up your bag and take out your books. Oh no, you forgot your textbook?
Oh, guess what? You can share mine. Exciting news from Square Enix has been inadvertently revealed by Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii. The game in question is an upcoming remake to a game that they previously made, and they weren't telling anyone it was getting a remake yet. Okay, look, I really like Dragon Quest. I spend hours playing Dragon Warrior on my NES, trading off the controller with my friends, talking about strategies over lunch. It was a big, formative deal for me, and I feel bad because it seems like Horii spilled the beans on the remake of this game by accident. An unverified video on Twitter seems to show Horii at Napoli Comic-Con saying something about the game in question getting a remake into a microphone, then the interpreter translating for the audience, then the host of the panel getting really surprised, then the interpreter confirming what he just said with Horii, who then said something else, which was then translated by the interpreter as, "You have heard nothing." And I would tell you more about what's happening here, but I respect Horii and his contributions, and I don't want to make trouble. And since according to the video, I have been told that I have heard nothing, and I'm not going to make it worse by telling all of you. It has been revealed through the release of official footage from Napoli Comic-Con that Yuji Horii did not reveal anything at all. Oh, good. No harm done. And in fact, it was the interpreter and not Horii who mentioned the game by name. Excellent. So it wasn't even properly sourced news at all. No sense in wasting several minutes of everyone's time with a speculative story that isn't even true about how Square Enix is remaking Chrono Trigger. Fuck!
Earlier this week, as Bungie unveiled their future plans for forthcoming expansions that promise to explore new frontiers in the world of Destiny 2, they were dealt a legal blow for not doing more to preserve their past. As early D2 players will recall, the Red War was the initial campaign that released with the game in 2017, followed by expansions such as Curse of Osiris. Both of those pieces of gameplay content, along with others, were sunsetted, or vaulted, or cycled out, or taken away in 2020 to free up disk space, development bandwidth, and in-game complexity for future expansions. This has proven problematic for new players who are no longer presented with an obvious entry point to Destiny's storyline and instead get thrown into whatever wackiness is happening in the tower this week. But more importantly, it's proven problematic for Bungie, who need that content to prove that it existed and that they own it. Rewinding somewhat, Bungie is the defendant in a copyright infringement case with sci-fi author Matthew Kelsey Martineau alleging that elements of Red War and Curse of Osiris were lifted from works he released on WordPress in 2012. Bungie defends that any similar elements are only that, similar, and points to the everything else they did as ways that the stories are legally distinct. The issue being, that work isn't in the game anymore, and despite submitting YouTube videos and wiki entries that show what did exist, the judge says YouTube videos and wiki entries are not admissible evidence. Essentially, the court is saying, the plaintiff isn't alleging anything about third-party YouTube videos, they're talking about the game, and Bungie can't prove their defense via the game. Bungie tries to argue that those missions and content won't even run on Destiny's current code base, and as such, it's impossible to prove what the court is asking, which is also wild news for Destiny players who assumed that stuff might return someday. Now, it's important to be clear that the court is taking these allegations of plagiarism very seriously, and the judge did say that even if they did have a working version of Destiny 2 with that stuff in there, this case would require a much more involved side-by-side comparison than Bungie has thus far provided. Regardless, it's a pretty good argument for digital preservation, and also bring back escalation protocol, probably.
If you watched any of the gameplay reveals for the upcoming Donkey Kong Bonanza on Switch 2, you may have noticed some in-game text that looks like bananas. Last week, still more than a month away from the game's release, a YouTuber named Too Crispy has already decoded most of the Banalphabet. Too Crispy starts by explaining that Nintendo has done this before in Breath of the Wild. And if that wasn't news to you and you didn't stop to question whether you've ever really paid attention to the immersive land of Hyrule, then the whole video should only take about 13 minutes to watch. Too Crispy continues after dropping that bombshell by showing off all the research they did and their decoding process. The video offers a carefully edited blend of newly filmed video of Too Crispy, themselves being a detective, and found footage from various Donkey Kong Bonanza playthroughs, and if you're a fan of mysteries or documentaries, you could do worse than the hunt for the truth of the Alpha Banana Bet. Without spoiling any more content, I'll let you know that Too Crispy's devious delving into Donkey Kongolese ends with a last-minute update thanks to new gameplay reveals, cementing it as a product of the internet and not a particularly coy episode of Explained on Netflix. Leave a like for this video if you think the Banalphabet will eventually be used for evil. And leave a comment below for the best Nintendo language yet, be it Ancient Zonai, Duck Hunt Doggolingo, or Banana.
Video game publisher EA reported a strong finish for its fourth quarter and to fiscal year 2025, saying the business is positioned for accelerated growth entering fiscal year 2026. CEO Andrew Wilson goes on to cite Sports FC, American football, The Sims, and Battlefield as... So look, this thing may as well be Simlish for how sincere and useful it is. This comes a few days after EA laid off hundreds of staff at Apex Legends developer Respawn, who also canceled 2 early-stage incubation projects. If you haven't read Respawn's post, it's as meaningless a jumble of words as the forward to an EA earnings report. What is a player-first experience? Oftentimes, people will call any kind of system involving money capitalism, but capitalism is a pretty specific thing. You don't bake bread for your family. You work in an industrial bakery doing something that may only be tangentially bread related. That's actually kind of interesting. You don't have to bake bread. Maybe you drive a forklift that carries bags of flour or push a broom. Maybe you maintain industrial bread ovens. Maybe you have a rare and coveted email job. The point is that your labor and the labor of your fellow workers makes the production of way more bread possible than you could ever individually bake. But that's not the capitalism. The capitalism is when you don't benefit from that. Whoever owns the factory benefits. And they aren't in the business of baking bread. They're in the business of owning assets. What does that mean? It means the business is positioned for accelerated growth, possibly with an eater-first experience. The whole thing is very postmodern and it makes a shitload of money for the people at the top. But money is strange. Economies are strange. They lend themselves to perverse incentives and undesirable outcomes. But as long as they keep making money, there's no incentive for EA or any other publisher to change. They will happily go on hiring people, firing them, canceling projects, and closing studios on a basis that is completely disconnected from the quality of any of that work, as long as the numbers on the quarterly report look good. That doesn't mean this is stable, it means it has no brakes. A perfectly spherical EA on a frictionless geopolitical world stage probably only medium sucks. But it's not that. The bad news is unfortunately also the good news. It's unsustainable, and unsustainable things end.
All right, another checkpoint down. What do you want to do now?
We could hit the arcade or maybe the mall?
Ooh, I could go for a snack before supper.
You guys can't get snacks after checkpoint in your uniforms. Also, you both have homework. Go home.
Yes, Paul.
Coming up, the Louvre has announced they will be replacing the Nintendo 3DS audio guide with a new system. We don't know what platform the new system will use, but just to be safe, be sure to pack a big battery for your PS5.
Shout outs to Nelson for the Banalphabet story, and you may be shocked to learn Cameron for his thesis on capitalism. A question about the Banalphabet.
Yes.
Or Congolese.
I did watch the video, so I can tell you, yes.
Great. Is it a simple replacement cipher, or is there more to it?
It is a replacement cipher is all it is.
Oh, okay.
It was some of the things that he pulled up when I was looking at how he was doing things. I was like, man, I do feel like looks like you're drawing lines to kind of, because he's working on very grainy footage, and it looks like he's drawing lines over top of like, it should look like this, and if it does this, then that would mean it's this. And I'm like, oh man, you're making some very like wide shots here. But ultimately he wasn't. I feel like he's done this kind of work before. So
cool.
Pretty neat. He's only down about 4 letters, I think, at this point, out of the entire like 26 English alphabet. And I felt a little disappointed that I was like, oh, why did they pull English? It would have been even funnier if it was like a completely like a language we wouldn't have expected. But still.
The Destiny story,
Yes.
Which I find very silly, because it's so weird for the judge to be like, no, don't show me a fan recorded gameplay video.
Yeah.
Show me what's in your game. And them to be like, well, it's not there anymore. And the judge to be like, well,
it's not there, so maybe you should put it back in because I'm dying to do another raid at the fucking Red War.
No kidding, right? It's very strange. But that is certainly not the highest profile Destiny story this week. So they unveiled their whole sort of like next like chapter of the story, because we had like a big finale of the Battle of Light and Darkness, and now we're sort of like, where does Destiny go from there? And they did the big reveal about forthcoming expansions and everything, including a Star Wars themed expansion, called Renegades, which is like, it's like Star Wars inspired. It's not Star Wars. They're like
the Mandalorian's not going to show up.
Yeah, no, they're very clear. They're like, no, this is not like a crossover. It's not like transdimensional whatever, where suddenly there's Star Wars things, like whatever.
It's not Fortnite.
No, except.
Oh no!
Except you make that comparison because there are armor skins in the game now that just are Kylo Ren and Darth Vader.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and it is as many have alleged online, the beginning of a potential Fortniteification of
Destiny 2.
Of Destiny 2, yeah. It's Kylo Ren, Darth Vader, and a passable General Grievous. The Guardians have 2 arms.
Yes.
So it's like, oh yeah, I guess that's kind of General Grievous.
So it's cosplay.
It's sort of, yeah.
It's like your kid's 6th grade Halloween pageant where everyone comes up on stage in their best costumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Foxmar, I believe, was saying that he loaded into a strike and it's like both the other randos were Kylo Ren, and it's like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
So, yeah.
At least they didn't like half-ass it to be like, well, we want it to be like inspired by. And yes, we are working with LucasArts or Lucasfilm or Lucas whatever. We're working with Disney. I should just say that. We're working with Disney on this. But that they didn't be like, we're making something that will feel like Star Wars, but it won't actually be Star Wars. And it'd be like, well, that's worse. Because the whole point was to do like a crossover to like sprinkle that flavor in there. Then you don't want it to be like a knockoff. You want it to actually just be the thing that it is.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was going to say how I was shocked about like the thing of like, you can't use a YouTube video or like stuff on a wiki or whatever. I'm like, but I guess that makes sense if you're, it's like you could have ginned this shit up yourself and posted it or something.
It's an interesting interpretation from the court, because they're like, the plaintiff isn't alleging anything about some random YouTube video. It's about your game, and they're like, but it's a video of the game as it existed at the time, and it doesn't exist that way now.
Do you want me to like, does that mean that we have to bring the game into the courtroom and we have to play it to show you what's happening and where the infringing whatever is? Because I don't think that's happened before.
Just imagine the judge playing it,
He just keeps falling off the edge of the world, and he's like, I don't get what's going on.
Crushed by a Cabal lander. Like, those drop pods are deadly, right? And people die to those things all the time. And I'm just imagining, like, no, wait, judge, don't stand there. Whoomph.
He's like, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
You're guilty. That wasn't what it was about. Doesn't matter, you're guilty.
Judgment for the plaintiff. Nerf this rifle. Hey, you're back.
I am back. Yeah.
Where the hell were you?
I was in Osaka, actually. Yeah, of all the places. I was in several places, in fact.
Yeah.
Japan was a lot of fun.
Sweet.
And got to do got to tick off a few things. What is fun about Japan, I think, for me anyway, is I had a plan of here's the things that we were going to do, and everything we did that surrounded each one of those things was even more exciting and interesting than the things that we said we were going to do.
That's so great.
Because we spent a day in Tokyo going to every Pokemon Center we could conceivably get to in a single day, but all the shit that we did around going there from place to place to place was actually more interesting than hitting up all the Pokemon Centers that don't have any unique shit in the Pokemon Center for you to buy. They're all just like, it's you went to the one in Mega Tokyo, same stuff there is in Shibuya. So
what's the point?
The point is to actually then visit Ikebukuro and see how cool that is.
There you go.
It's like, well, that's good. I'm glad I went to Ikebukuro. I'm glad I went to Shibuya. I'm glad I went to all these places. We had a great time. And I have a 3-hour TED Talk.
I was going to say,
yeah.
to focus and limit vacation story time, and keep it on theme for the show.
Absolutely.
What's the coolest thing you saw at the Nintendo Museum?
Yeah, the Nintendo Museum in Kyoto, probably, I mean... Probably
one thing.
The coolest thing was that it was the 9th when we went, and they had revealed the Switch 2 on the 2nd. Right. And so when we went up to the second floor, where you are not allowed to take any photos, they had a whole exhibit set up for the Switch 2, and they said you can take photos and video of this, and that's it. And so Heather and I walked along, and that's how we got photos and video of Switch 2, which I think got used on a previous episode of CheckPoint.
It was an episode where we talked about the announcement.
That was our footage, baby.
Yeah,
we
they're
took
like
that.
Exclusive photos. Yeah.
They wouldn't let you touch anything, though, which is fair because I don't get my hands all over the glass.
I want to feel the heft.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh, well. Cool. Well, hey, this is as good a time as any in the proceedings to remind you that everything we do here at Loading Ready Run, including this show and many, 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 many other things, is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, or by becoming a member on this very YouTube channel. And shout outs to those folks momentarily. Anything else?
No, I think we covered the thing. I'm glad that it seems like everything's going back to normal here in the Moonbase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Bye, everybody. Yes, Paul.